Simone. I'm excited to be here with you today. Today, we are going to be talking about something that is wildly under-discussed in the news right now, which is that Cuba is about to collapse. And when I say
What?
about to collapse, you may think that I am exaggerating. They have literally, at this point, 14 to 19 days of oil left. They have had no tanker arrivals since January 9th. The tankers that were being sent from Venezuela have been cut off, and their last lifeline, which was Mexico, has also been cut off more
Why?
recently than that. Trump negotiations. So it's about to be renegotiated, and
Oh.
Trump put a lot of pressure on Mexico to cut off. Also, it was costing Mexico a lot. They spent $3 billion basically in free oil for Venezuela over the past just few years. I think since the
Why?
start of this person's administration. Well, Cuba was giving them their slave doctors. For people who don't know,
Oh yeah.
Cuba basically enslaves their doctors and was giving them to Mexico as like an exchange. But Venezuela was an also interesting situation because we're seeing more and more. Venezuela had given Cuba, in terms of like loans that Cuba would never pay back, very obviously, and stuff like that, $18 billion. And if we look at the elite guard that was killed during the raid, we know that 32 of them, so almost all of the people who died, were actually Cubans. So it appears that Cuba basically controlled, like, the accusations that Cuba had basically subjugated Venezuela and was just extracting resources from it were accurate. They basically controlled the entire elite guard of the country and most of the major military positions.
Ouch.
And this is being systemically reversed right now. And I note here that another thing you're not seeing if you're watching mainstream news right now is that Venezuela has actually made pretty big changes. Not only have they stopped sending money and oil to Cuba, but they have started releasing hundreds. I think now we're at 300, but it shows no signs of slowing down political prisoners. So we are actually seeing change in Venezuela. It's just
all right.
Trump can't dunk on it too much, or it would look bad for the woman who's in power now, right? You know, we have to be very nice about all of our political wins that we're making in Venezuela and very graceful about it, because you don't want too many people asking, did she cooperate with you guys to get rid of Maduro?
Yeah, you don't want to look a little matchy. That would not be good.
Yeah, you don't want to look too matchy. So she constantly complains, but in terms of what we actually want to see happen in Venezuela, that's what we're seeing right now.
Wow.
And I note here that how bad things have gotten in Cuba is not a, like, this is happening completely out of nowhere scenario. So
I have to ask, do they not have oil reserves? We have oil reserves.
By the way, if you're wondering if Cuba has oil deposits somewhere, they do, but in 2012, 3 deep water, more than 300 meters of water exploration wells were drilled by Italian platform Scarborough 9, and none of the 3 found commercial quality of oil or gas, which jeopardized Cuba's hopes to find hydrocarbons to boost its economy. So basically, they technically have some around the island, but none of the commercial explorations have ever found a way to reach them in a cash positive manner. Cuba is a little island, Simone. No, Cuba doesn't.
Well, one can have some kind of, I don't know, tank. This is my out of touch. I have to ask the out of touch questions that everyone else is asking, because I'm not the only out of touch person here.
No, they're completely out. So their economy last year, 20% was the tourism industry. And this is despite the fact that tourism has been crashing for them. So things have been getting much worse for them.
So the world's top destination for male sex workers is going out of favor. Oh, this is because the younger people aren't having sex anymore. So what kind of woman wants to go to Cuba anymore?
Been a combinations of factors that hit their tourism industry. One was Trump reinstated sanctions that Obama had lifted. 2 was,
we actually know this. When we ran our travel agency, we used to have a decent amount of traffic to Cuba. And then after a while, flights got kind of weird and it was harder to get people there. The visa situation got very complicated. And then we started having banking problems, like, oh, do you do any business with Cuba? And then like we got shut out of various things. Like, we as a travel agency were strongly disincentivized from even facilitating travel to Cuba, even if we're talking like a student trip. At one point, we helped to facilitate a student trip, like a tour to Cuba for, cultural reasons and stuff. So I can totally see why tourism is down, not just because of sanctions and stuff, but because the very operators and companies facilitating that travel were really, there were a lot of friction was added to the
Well, it's
process.
not just that. There was basically, to give a bit of history of what happened, is Obama opened everything. And much like when apartheid ended in South Africa, a bunch of people went in thinking, oh my God, look at this opportunity, look at these green fields.
Oh, but you go, and the only thing that's cool is the male sex workers
Well,
and
and
the
so
old
a lot of,
cars, and everything
hold on,
else is crappy.
we'll get to that. But so a lot of travel started happening to Cuba, and a lot of people said, oh, well, invest in it. So it was all subsidized and sort of over the top of what the economy could actually handle. Even
Oh,
before the new sanctions came in, many of the travel providers that we were operating with that had been set up during that boom period were already about to go bankrupt or had already gone bankrupt before Trump sanctions. It's just not that many people actually wanted to go to Cuba, is what we really learned. And really the only reason people reliably went to Cuba, which, as Simone said, was male sex workers. That was the core thing. So it was mostly older, like middle-aged women and gay men. That's who was going for male Cuban sex workers.
the song
Um,
Havana's now in my head.
right. And but to give you an idea of how bad things have been in Cuba since 2021, did you know that around 10%, this is only since 2021, we're talking 5 years, 10% of the Cuban population has immigrated out of the country.
Okay, so they haven't made it impossible to escape. I thought it was most a get on a raft and hope for the best kind of situation. So it's not.
Well, having 10% of your population leave, and keep in mind the population that leaves has almost been entirely under 40. So it is their working population. Cuba has a worse TFR than the United States. They're around 1.5 to 1.3 from what I've seen in various studies. They are extremely effed on that point. But you were saying, like, do they have reserves of oil? The reason I was
Mhm.
emphasizing the importance of their tourism industry is that even with their tourist industry being like their lifeline right now,
Sure.
the hotels regularly go with blackouts,
Yeah.
no power. They
We had
go
issues with that. Yeah.
without running water.
Mhm.
They go without. So even like their key industry, and you've got to understand if you're like, what does it mean to run out of oil in a matter of days at this point? What this means is you have no factories operate. Almost all of Cuba's energy is made with gas. So you have
Mhm.
no light, no electricity. Your farming equipment doesn't work.
So wait,
You
their electrical grid, you think is based on
It is based,
fossil
it's like
fuel?
70% oil, gas, yeah.
Yowza. Okay.
And the reason they built it that way is because they were getting free gas from Venezuela.
That helps.
So they have no electricity, no farming equipment, no way to get from one place to another. Like the
God, and those old
scale,
cars aren't exactly fuel efficient. Oh
yeah,
no.
the scale of the badness is very, very, very bad.
This is not good. Okay.
And so we've got
Oh
to,
no, and then yeah, let's say that this happens, and then a bunch of people in pretty dire straits actually hop on more rafts and float over to Miami. And then ICE just takes them, I don't know, flies them to Somalia. This is not going to be good at
yeah,
all.
it is not, well, it could be good, depending on the outcome. So I really think we have never seen a president so well positioned to end this.
Okay.
And we see that from the way that he's done both
Is he
the
going to
deal
Puerto Rico?
Greenland,
Cuba?
which has been really, really impressive, as well as
No.
what he did with Venezuela and the subsequent deal afterwards. So I'll get to this. So
Is
what's
he going to
important?
be throwing toilet paper rolls at them next?
Did he throw toilet paper rolls at
In
somebody?
Puerto Rico, don't you remember when he was like Puerto Rico, and then he kept saying it, and then say like, I mean, I don't know, the way he pronounces countries just kind of gets me. Gina and Puerto Rico, he gets a
Okay.
little flamboyant with that one. But yeah, during one of the hurricane recovery processes, he went to Puerto Rico and he threw, I believe, paper towels at the audience, and people were like rolls of them. Don't worry. I mean, I would be thrilled to have someone throw a roll of paper towels at me. We need them. But yeah, like people that got caught up in the media because people were very angry about him, not actually helping people. And Trump was like, I don't know, they seem pretty happy about getting paper towels. So it was a whole
That
thing.
is hilarious and
Yeah.
very Trump.
But you're saying, yeah, this could be like another Puerto Rico for the United States. Like we treat it the same way as we
No,
treat Puerto Rico.
unlikely. But what we could do, and I think that this is why it will go so well, is we have seen through Trump's engagement with Venezuela, typically what you have when you had, leftists or the old sort of neocons in a argue, trying to build American power in a region, they go to a country like Venezuela that had been heavily, blockaded by America and everything like that.
Yeah.
And they would say, hey guys, we need you to start holding democratic elections and release your political prisoners. And we're going to start holding like war trials for everyone who broke, major whatevers, right?
Okay.
Or we would try to do a coup in the country, right? Like we would fund a bunch of militants with the CIA or something like this. Those two strategies, it turned out, were really bad. Trump tried something totally new, which is not like anyone has ever thought to do in a country like Venezuela or Cuba for that matter, which is Trump basically just went in and was like, okay, who's willing to negotiate? What do we really want? We really want your oil. So, what do you care about? Right? Like it's
out of the deal.
Why don't you release some token number of prisoners, and they're like, do we need to hold fair elections? Whatever. Like
you do you.
Stop sending money to oil to Cuba. And they're like, you know what? We've been really pissed about this Cuba arrangement for a while as well. Yeah, we'll work on that. So with Cuba, the interesting thing is, and this is something I really want to take some time to talk about here, what he might be offering Cuba could be significantly different than what other presidential administrations have attempted to offer Cuba, right?
Interesting.
He could be going in there being like, oh yeah, keep your regime, whatever, right? Like we'll just change a few things here and there. And it's important to understand that Cuba is significantly more centralized than Venezuela. I mean, that's how Cuba essentially took over Venezuela to begin with. They are essentially coup proof at this point, given how centralized the power structure is. And considering that in Venezuela, they had memories of democracy in Venezuela, right? Like they knew how much communists had screwed them over. In Cuba, there isn't this same memory of this either, right? And I think another thing that we need to touch on here before I go further, also Cuba is not as corrupt. Like it is corrupt, but it's not nearly as corrupt. They care much more about the longevity of their regime than personal enrichment, even people in positions of power. Finally, they have a real military, which Venezuela didn't really have.
Or is it just like Russians hanging out?
No, Cuba has like Cuban military. I mean, Venezuela's military was a Cuban military.
I didn't know. So they have like a sizable army. What's their specialty? Navy, Air Force? What's the situation there?
If you want the full answer here, Cuba's strongest branch is its army, where it has around 113 main battle tanks, T-55 to 62 models, and relies on a dense network of anti-air systems, radar, satellites, and surface-to-air missiles. Cuba's navy is relatively weak. They only have around 19 vessels, including patrol craft, minesweepers, and a few intelligence ships. And then for their Air Force, it was at its peak in the 1990s when they boasted 230 fixed-wing aircraft. Today it operates around 31 to 34 active aircraft, mostly aging MiG-21 or 23 fighters.
So but I mean, I don't know.
But the point being is it's not like a fragmented force like Venezuela's was. Like Venezuela, as I said, their military was basically controlled by Cubans. Cuban's military is basically controlled by the guys who own about 30 to 40% of the Cuban economy. So the people who least want regime change also control the military, which is, I mean, if you're trying to structure an economy not to undergo a coup or anything, that makes a lot of sense. But it also potentially gives Trump alternate people to negotiate with within the country, depending on what they want. Another thing I was going to note actually, one really interesting thing about this that we'll get to in a second, but I want to just note here is Cuba has been a really important part of fueling leftist ideological causes within the United States for about the last 50 years. Not through funding, but through training programs.
Training? What? So they're not like Russian trollbot farms. They're not like CCP influence campaigns.
It's really fascinating. So it's through two sectors. One is sort of covert training programs that they've been operating for a long time.
Okay.
And you see this in Antifa circles. One of the things that's known when people come out of Antifa circles, and the guy who we had who was working in Antifa who came on our show talked about this, is that there is something of a status symbol within Antifa communities of being Cuban trained. Like that means you are elite. That means
Well,
you are legit and no one will question you.
so the Navy SEALs of Antifa are Cuban trained
Well,
Antifa
Cuban trained in
members.
their ideology, yeah. And it's not
Oh.
just them; it's also the political group, the socialist political organization we have in the United States that like Mondami was affiliated with. They
The
have been heavily,
Democratic Socialists of
yeah,
America?
yeah, they were heavily influenced or even potentially set out by the Cubans.
Ooh la la.
And Cuba
Okay.
also offers for like college students, and we see a lot of like leftist ideologues, even mainstream within democratic politics, who do this program where you go to Cuba for I don't know how long, like a few months, and you get political training and learn how great
Birthright for
socialism
commies.
is. Yes.
Wow.
So
Okay.
taking down Cuba is, I think a lot of people do not realize how critical and intelligent Trump's handling of the Venezuela situation was, because
Mm.
basically it's knocking down like
Their
it
purse.
knocked down the perception that Russia or China could protect you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
with Cuba, we have been knocking out all of their potential allies one by one. And I think a lot of the rest of the world didn't see that this was happening. You know, Iran is off the table as someone who can help them now. Russia
Yeah.
is off the table as someone who can help them. Venezuela is off the table as someone who can help them. And North Korea is off the table as someone who can help them. They have no one they can go to. And China, I guess they could try to go to China, but I haven't seen any signs that that's going to happen for them. I mean, China's in a difficult position as it is right now. So Cuba just doesn't really have any friends left. And they are incredibly isolated. The other thing I wanted to note that I think is really clever about Trump in terms of how he's built his administration, which is just it's actually really sweet and heartening to see, is Marco Rubio is the one who's handling Cuba right now. He's handling all of the Cuba situation, all the Venezuela situation. And what I've repeatedly see with Trump in terms of how he handles enemies or competitors for presidential positions is he promises them and gets them a position that they would prefer to being president.
Oh.
You know, what did Kennedy want more than anything? It was to run the food. It was to run the medical associations of the United States. It was to fix all of our food and drug stuff and all of the medical stuff. And that is the position that Trump put him in. Everybody, you could have told me if you looked at Kennedy's campaign ads, is this man running to be head of medical establishments in the United States, or is he running to be head of the country? No, he wants to fix all the medical stuff. You look at, you know, what Rubio really wanted more than anything, and anyone could tell you if you asked Rubio, would you rather free Cuba or be president? He'd say, I'd rather free Cuba, hands down. That's his like life's work, right? It's the number one biggest gift anyone could ever give him is to be in this position. And so he's treating it really, really seriously, right? Like I think was much more honesty than you could normally appreciate from a lackey who's out there doing something, right? I mean, now people should know I personally don't really like Marco Rubio. I think he's boring and like old school politics, which is also good that, you know, Trump didn't put him in a position to be the next presidential candidate. I think he's really done as a rising star in Republican politics. And he put Vance in that position, who's a great as well. Like Vance wanted to be VP more than anything. Vance is the one who actually wants to be president one day and has been pulling the strings on that for a long time. He's done some really great speeches recently, mind you, around, well, we'll get on that in another video. This is around the have you been following the stuff on voter ID?
Just broadly that they want the Trump administration is fighting for, I think, universal voter ID, right?
Which they should.
Yeah, for context, in the United States, in many places, you do not have to have a state-issued photo ID in order to vote. You can just say, my name is Malcolm Collins and I'm here to vote and this is my address.
And these places, if you I can put a map, I'll put two maps on the screen here. One is of whether places go Democrat or Republican in state elections,
yeah,
and whether or not they require a voter ID. And what you see is almost every state that requires a voter ID goes Republican, and almost every state that doesn't goes Democrat. I'm a little worried for this video because when I was searching this is way more banned of a topic than I thought. You can watch one of our videos this weekend for paid subscribers where we're going to go over the topics we can't talk about on YouTube, but this is really adjacent to one of them. But all the, you know, debunking things on this, they say, well, it is true that Kamala won most of the states that didn't require voter ID. She won some that did require it, that were extremely blue states, which proves that this isn't true. This is such a weird. I mean, obviously, there's still going to be some states that she won. Nobody's saying that she literally only won every single. What?
Yeah, when we went to this one conference, they were handing out hats that said, "When I die, don't let me vote Democrat." And
well, it's a real phenomenon that's been reported on. Even when Elon was doing the sort of breakdown of the rolls for Medicaid and stuff like that, and he found all the dead people who were on the rolls. He then checked to see how many of them voted, and a lot of them had voted. This is a real thing that's really happening. I mean,
and I didn't realize that because when we got the hats, I was like, I don't get it.
Well, Kennedy famously joked, like literally Kennedy joked when somebody was congratulating him on a presidential win, something about like, oh, well, you should thank the whatever cemetery. This joke was explicitly made by Kennedy, but in a coded language on a call he had with Daley about how he won Illinois and Ohio. So like, this has been a pretty open thing for a while. And so I'm really glad that something hopefully is being done. I've heard that like the Republicans in the Senate are like being super pussies about this right now. And it's really freaking me out that they could be that pathetic on this, because we need to stop the cheat, right? Like this cannot be allowed to continue, especially at the scale that has been happening.
It's just wild that you have to have a driver's license, a form of government issued ID, in order to drive a car. Like, if you can't figure that out, should you really be allowed to vote? Really?
Right. There was a funny video clip I saw of somebody going around and repeating what leftists. So basically they went to a college campus and said, why do you need a voter ID, right? And they were like, well, because then black people won't be able to vote. And he's like, why don't you think black people can get a voter ID?
I'm Ami. Do you know any black adult who does not have ID?
No, I don't.
Is it a weird thing to even say that?
Yes, it is.
What is this, some type of trick candy canvas?
I know, right? That's the only thing I brought with me.
Those are legit IDs. I heard a lot also that black people can't figure out how to get to the DMV.
Really?
What does that say to you?
I know it's that, it's on 25th Street.
Do you know where the DMV is around you?
It's on 125th Street and 3rd Avenue, I believe.
You know how to get there?
Yeah.
Would you have a problem getting there if you had to get there?
No.
I know these sound like silly questions. You know how to get to the DMV?
Of course.
You know where it is?
Yes.
You can get there?
Uh-huh.
No problem.
No problem.
Just checking.
Okay.
And I also heard a lot that black people, especially poor black people, have no access to the internet, can't figure out how to use the internet.
That's just stupidity, honestly. Everybody has access to the internet. Even a little kid can figure out how to work the internet.
I had access to the internet for years.
You know how to use it properly, right?
Exactly, I do it at work. So of course I know how to use it. My kids know how to use it. They all have iPads, iPods, whatever.
Kind of insulting.
All of their quotes around that, like black people don't know how to use the internet, or black people don't know where DMVs are.
What are you doing?
And then he took these and he went to a black community and started asking black people if this was true. And they were like very confused.
Would you like me to help you access the internet? Oh my God. Oh! As if Black Twitter wasn't a thing.
Well, I mean, the polls for this are overwhelming. It's something like even like 76% of black people want this to be a law. Everybody wants this to be a law. It's really just being used by people who want to cheat. Like that's sort of, I mean, we're in a situation with the redistricting that's going to happen in 2030. The only way Democrats can stay relevant is if they cheat. And we're increasingly seeing that in the tactics that they're using. So what I wanted to, go to here, because I find this really interesting. So the Venceremos Brigade, this is from 1969 to present. In 2024 to 2025, Cuba hosted multiple contingents, including a queer trans brigade. Americans got 2 to 4 weeks of political education, Marxist-Leninist indoctrinations, meeting with Cuban intelligence officers, ICAP plus MINT, labor plus solidarity work. Many alumni later became organizers at the PSL, the Answer Coalition, and Students for a Democratic Society, as well as Antifa adjacent groups. The People's Front, led by Milano del Los Santos, who lived in Cuba for years and has extremely close ties to the Cuban government. His group played a central role in the 2024 Columbia University occupation and many pro-Palestine radical actions. And then the Party for Socialism and Liberation, PSL, the most pro-Cuba communist party in the US, many top comrades have gone through Cuban government training programs. So yes, Cuba has been directly coordinating with these groups. So now it's time to think, what is Trump going to do? Like, what is the actual plan and what could stop this plan from going through? But before I get into that, Simone, what are your thoughts?
I am very curious to hear what you're going to propose in terms of here's what the leaders of Cuba would prefer to being the leaders of Cuba. Not to say that they're having a ton of fun right now anyway. I just want to know.
So the important thing to note about the leaders of Cuba right now is they are all tremendously old. The heads of the military, the heads of the state. It is a country being ruined by a boomer autocracy, right? Like a aged.
I'm sorry, the whole world is being ruined by boomer autocracies. So
well, this is a little different. They don't really have outside voices because it's not exactly a place where young people can rise up in power very easily. So there aren't, like, in the White House, it is very clear in terms of the way they're making decisions. And even when we go, you know, because we've been to the White House to advise, the people we're meeting with are our age or younger often. The Trump administration is a very young administration. MAGA as a movement is a young movement, right? Like the new right especially, like, screams youth as a movement. When I look at who the movement is, it's a bunch of people who would have been like college effective altruists a generation ago, right? Like, it's young autistic nerds, right? And this means that they are on board with the latest technology, the latest ideas, the way the world actually works right now. The people who are running things in Cuba are the people who lived through the Cold War. They understand Cold War style politics, which is not what we're dealing with right now. And we also have the big problem with, so the current president of Cuba, Miguel Diaz-Canel, I don't know. I'm not gonna put these foreign words in my mouth. Anyway, he is going to have a very hard time stepping back because the military controls significant economic sectors through conglomerates like GAESA, Grupo de Administración Imperiosa, which oversees tourism, remittances, and other revenue streams. Under the current Minister of Defense, Alavo Lopez Mayera, which is a very clever way to put it. Remember how I was talking about what all of their cash cow industries were? They put all of those directly under the military and run by a very old guy, mind you.
That's very
and so what that
interesting,
means is the military has a structural reason to resist change in a way that the military in, say, something like China may not, right? Like if all they have is the military, right? They don't personally lose money. All your generals don't personally lose money if there is any sort of economic or systems change.
Yeah.
So the question becomes, how do you make a deal for Cuba that keeps the rich people in Cuba rich, but also ends the current administration? I'm actually open to your thoughts on this, Simone, because I'm not entirely sure what the administration is planning or attempting. They could be trying to do a generational trade-off thing, being like, you guys get this until X date and then you transfer it to the next generation, or you guys, like, I'm genuinely not sure what it's going to look like. What are your thoughts?
Possibly, I don't know how nepotistic the leading party is or how much they care about setting up their personal family and descendants, but I could possibly see incentivizing them to create an oligarchy in a post-Cuban government world or a different administration to be like, well, by agreeing to step down after your term, like you're the last one, we will help you set up a system in which your descendants disproportionately profit. But that's also on average, every citizen will be materially better off because they're not in power anymore.
That's going to happen no matter what.
Yeah.
If you look right now, well, unless we do like a full regime overhaul, which I do not
Mhm.
think Trump has any stomach for. If
No.
you look at the descendants of Fidel Castro, a lot of them are super rich people living in the US right now. Like there's a number of like young, like super, I think it was like hundreds of millions of dollars, like teenage Instagram stars who are like
Aw.
Castro's descendants. Yeah.
Adorable.
They looted that country. That, you know, not an ethical government exactly. I had this girlfriend in college who was from Germany, and she was like a communist who absolutely believes that life was better in Cuba than the United States. And she's like, oh, their medical system. I was like, you're aware that their doctors are basically slaves, right? For people who don't know how their doctor program works, and this is responsible for, I think, another 20% of the Cuban economy,
Mhm.
they send them to other countries and they work for 3 to 4 years, and they only get to keep around 10% of the salary that they make. And then they also don't get paid until they come back, and they have a constant military minder on them at all times. So yes, it's not an awesome life to be a Cuban doctor.
I only learned that weirdly when, man, it was a great dental practice too. A Cuban dentist in Miami told me everything. Did you go to that dentist? Did I set you up with him? He was right across from our office in the Amadeus building
I don't
in
know.
Doral. But yeah, he would serve you espresso and then just like chat with you while cleaning his teeth. It was a great dental office. And he was from Cuba, and he just walked me through the whole process. Like, oh my God. They like everyone in his office was a recent Cuban immigrant, and he's just like, man, I'm glad to be out of there. Like,
Yeah.
it's bad.
No, it's
The crazy thing though is he was a really good dentist. Like I feel like the medical professionals from Cuba and in general the people who managed to get out of Cuba are very competent, very cool.
Yeah, no. I mean, obviously, there's a huge Cuban business community in the United States. They're a big faction of the conservative party in the United States. They've been very loyal to the party, and they are very well accepted. I mean, Marco Rubio, right? Like, could have been president, like by the conservative establishment. And this means that we were talking with our super fans. One of them who was Iranian was like, well, do you think that if the current regime was toppled, that the Iranian expats could ever come back and really reestablish something? And I didn't really feel they could. It's just too far. They've done too much damage already to the country, the infrastructure, and they've built alternate communities in other places. And he thought they would. I mean, maybe they care more. I feel the same way about Cubans in the US. It's an interesting thing because I think Cubans in the US would send money to Cuba to try to get it reset up, but I don't think that they would remigrate.
I don't know, man. I get the impression from the Cuban immigrants I've met that they're like, I'm out of there. I'm not sending anything back. Like,
I don't
screw them. No. And then I say that knowing that a lot of other people from other countries do send a lot of remittances back, including Venezuela, where the government was really screwed up and people had major problems with it. They were still sending money back. In fact, our business made a lot of money from people literally flying with suitcases full of cash because we were selling them plane tickets. It was insane.
Yeah. So
like I know, but like there's something about when people leave Cuba, they're like, screw that place.
You're right. It is very different from like fleeing Venezuela. When they flee Venezuela, there's always like a plan to go back eventually, or a plan to send money back.
Oh yeah,
like
this is a temporary setback. Venezuela is amazing. Like we're just gotta sit this out, that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, it's more like they send money to their relatives back in Venezuela. I actually don't see that very much with the Cubans I know. They do not send money back to the Cubans.
No, it's like, well, and I think it might come from a belief that it's just going to be taken, I guess.
Or
I don't know.
I don't know, but it's a different culture. It's a different culture, right? So the point here being is, I don't know if I think what we're gonna get is Cuba has no cards on the table right now, right? Like,
yeah,
I think within a matter of weeks, you should expect to see something pretty big happen. I don't know what it's going to look like, but
well, if they're that low on oil reserves, that like, I mean, something's got to give, right?
Yeah, I suspect it's going to be. I was going to say describe what it's going to look like. It's going to look, I think, unusually pragmatic. It's going to be a win for the Trump administration, whatever it is. And it's going to long-term set us up very well with Cuba.
Well, what if How is, I guess, okay, so yeah, tourism. So you're saying they're both out of oil and money because tourism is way down, and that was
They're
what
out
they
of
used.
oil. Well, and when
I was
they
going to
run
say,
out of
like,
oil, they
maybe
can't
Trump
run
would
it.
love to extort them for oil money, especially if it was just from the Venezuelan tankers that he seized and was like, we're going to sell that oil. I guess I'm going to keep it. I don't know. I mean, what I guess the major thorn in the side that Cuba has been, and if we were to look at the strategic document released by the US government on our international policy, our military policy, basically it was, we do not want the Americas, anyone in the Americas, to be a strategic threat. And Cuba is like the outpost of Russia and China left, aside from Venezuela, right? I mean, who else aside from Cuba and Venezuela were strongholds of Russian and Chinese interests? I mean, I guess you could say Peru has a ton of Chinese business, so maybe it's a risk. But I don't really see it as that way.
No.
It's not
Keep
acting
in
as a-
mind the Peruvian Chinese population immigrated to Peru either pre-CCP or as refugees from the CCP.
Yeah, but the mining industry in Peru like exists for China.
Oh yeah. It exists to sell to China, so China has
But it
huge
doesn't.
economic
But China
leverage
like
over
doesn't.
Peru.
I guess there's not like there's not a big belt there. I don't even know if there is a Belt and Road Initiative. Actually,
But there isn't any ethnic love of China any more than like a country with a big Falun Gong group would have a love of China. Like
Okay.
they don't have a yearning to return to the CCP. I was actually decided to ask you because I was wondering like why isn't China helping them right now?
That's a good question. Well, China has its own problems, though. So I guess if I were to sum it up, though, the United States, per its stated strategic interests, does not want Cuba to be a stronghold of Russian or Chinese interests. So the most important thing is for whatever.
Yeah, so China has offered some humanitarian aid, 80 million in emergency financial aid for electrical equipment and urgent needs, with
Okay.
60,000 to 90,000 tons of rice donations and food supplies in January 2026.
Oh.
Beijing has also written off some Cuban debt and provided some funds and assistance, but it does not appear, that they are offering what Cuba needs, which is oil.
Well, come on. I mean, China is a net importer of energy. They need it for themselves, although they're really making good progress.
Well, they could pay for it from somewhere. I mean, pay for some other. I know Cuba has supposedly, like if you read their internal documents, they expected that something could happen with Venezuela and the oil could be cut off.
Yeah.
And so they planned for some like African oil shipment routes from like Algeria. And that China could play a role in that. The problem is that Cuba just doesn't really have anything to play other than a geopolitical enemy.
That's significant, though. I think it's the one big thorn left in our geopolitical side in the Americas, unless we want to count Canada as a foreign asset now, which it practically is.
Yeah. Okay. So this is why China's not giving oil. Trump has been threatening, and this is also what got Mexico to back off, a 30% tariff on any country that gives Cuba oil. And just nobody cares about Cuba that much, right? Like they're completely out on their own at this point. It's geopolitically a big deal because if the United States captures the allegiance of Cuba as much as we have Venezuela, which has been astounding their level of cooperation.
Yeah, so far.
We have no more geopolitical enemies anywhere threatening to us, especially if we're able to get Greenland as well. Like America, the United States basically will own the Americas without. It will have been one of the most stunning political coups and victories like any human has pulled off in history. What this administration of the Trump administration has pulled off. If they can neutralize Venezuela and Cuba as threats, and then better yet, expand our position in Greenland. For people who don't understand why Greenland is so important, it is, and a lot of people are like, well, you can already build military bases anywhere you want in Greenland. So why do you care about Greenland? Because I point out that like missile pathways that are coming from China or Russia go over Greenland, right? Like if you have good installations in Greenland, you can stop them there. And people are like, well, you could just build more. And it's like, Yeah, except Greenland has an independence movement right now, and Europe has shown themselves to be complete pussies to independence movements. And as soon as we get an independent Greenland, Greenland is not self-sustaining. They basically live off of money. They basically live off of money from their host country right now. Specifically, Greenland requires around $700 million a year in subsidies to function, which is why it would make sense for Denmark to want to offload it as well. And that means that they will all of a sudden be desperate for anyone who will give them money. And if you look at the people of Denmark, the problem is basically nobody lives there. Basically nobody lives there. Geopolitically, it is an irrelevant number.
In Greenland, a lot of people live in Denmark.
No, in Greenland, yeah.
Nobody
lives in Greenland. And so if you, from a geopolitical standpoint, it's like the size of a town, right? But the people who do live there are super urban monoculture brain cooked. And if they got their independence, they would be hesitant to form alliances with the United States. It would be very likely to form one with China or Russia. What the Trump administration is doing right now, especially China, because I've noticed urban monoculture people do not care about China's atrocities at all. It's basically like,
what atrocities?
And so Trump is absolutely, we do need to pressure this deal. And it sounds like he's got something. I don't know what it's going to look like yet, but it sounds like he's got something. But if he gets those that would mean that America, not only like anyone who would have any reason to attack us has to cross oceans, right? But we've got on lock the entire, not just our continent, but every continent that abridges us, that is anywhere close to us.
It's a general idea. Yeah.
It would be as safe as you could be as a country. Because nobody's attacking us through Mexico. Nobody's attacking us through Canada. We're energy independent, food independent.
Well,
have a diversified economy.
Mexico has a bit of a big gang problem.
But the gangs have no interest in like directly attacking the United States. And if they did, it would give the United States an opportunity to fight back.
I don't know. I mean, that it's a very tough problem. I mean, because what we're looking at is a very grassroots guerrilla insurgency, essentially, that's just running many parts of Mexico, functionally speaking.
But it actually
for the same reasons why we couldn't durably take many Middle Eastern countries, we couldn't durably take Mexico.
Oh, we could durably take Mexico. Hard.
I mean, maybe once you have like drone swarms or like, I don't know. Oh my gosh, we could just do a Kingsman based like attack. You know, the second one where they had a drug laced with something that just selectively killed everyone who consumed that drug.
Yeah, go for that strategy. The problem, so we absolutely could durably take Mexico. Yeah. What you're not considering is the extremely low logistics cost of attempting to take Mexico, because it is just on our southern border with roads going directly into it, rail lines going directly into it.
It's just a daytime commute.
Multiple
giant. You'll be home in time for dinner.
Gulfs and what like the Gulf of America, right, is just like right there around most of Mexico's land. The big problem is the mountainous regions, which make it, you know, it makes it easier for guerrillas to hide out and everything like that. But then the other thing that you got to keep in mind is how many of our armed forces just are Latin American, right? Like we have a lot of Latin America. There is not a cultural divide there. And if you did the military operations right, you would just have them led by Latin Americans and make it very much like from a PR strategy. Like, did you know that the ICE officers who shot whatever woman were two gay Mexican ICE officers?
Thank God, really?
So I wasn't able to find evidence on the gay connection, but I was able to find that the ones who shot the guy recently were two Hispanic officers. Yeah. People were saying it's wild that everyone who has died during this on the Democrat side, the deaths have been from a white shooter who shot undocumented immigrants by accident. And on our side, it has been multiple cases of like Hispanic shooters shooting white women or men, which is ironic.
There was recently a court hearing where non-white people reported in court about their mistreatment. So it's not only white people who are being impacted, but yeah.
Well, the non-white
It's
people
the white
typically
people who
know
are
better
being
than to run up
deranged
and
and blowing whistles and stuff. Actually, yeah. I mean, all the instances that I saw reported in this court hearing were of people like trying to get to appointments or just driving. I think they weren't actively trying to. Well, one woman was, but yeah, it was mostly people.
there's been a viral video recently of a black ICE officer being called a house inward.
Oh,
by a-
after being like, "Are you a man?
Are you a
What's
man?
wrong
Yeah,
with
you saw this.
Yeah, yeah. Did that person answer the question? Because they didn't sound.
No, somebody was like, "How dare you ask a woman if she's
Yeah.
a woman? Why would you ask her that?"
He seemed genuinely confused, though.
Yeah, like
Because this person was wearing a mask and they had long hair, but they sounded like a man. So you could understand how if you weren't from
their culture. And you're
Yeah,
just like a
you'd be
normal
very
black guy. No, the
confused.
funny thing is he didn't even seem like an angry ICE officer. He just
No.
seemed like a confused normal black guy. Like,
Yeah, it was just like, yeah, that like maybe he hadn't been exposed to super woke people. And so he's just like, you know, this masked woman approaches him, you know, person with long hair behind a mask, and then like they talk and they sound like a man, and he's just like, "Are you a man?" And then they
by the
start
way,
going
did you
off on him.
know that homicides in the United States went down 25% last year since ICE started?
Wow.
Like, it's having a big effect. This was from a JD Vance speech, which I was really surprised to know. So we just got to keep winning, keep it up. I got to make my video game, GTA Minneapolis. I would so want to play that.
Gosh. No, I'd want, well, I mean, to make it realistic, you'd have to have the incessant whistling. And I don't know if people want to do, there has to be an option to just turn it off.
You tell me about
You
the
like
person
to-
who brought a whistle to the Oscars? Like,
No, with the Grammys. Yeah, they
Grammys.
were their performative, I support the current thing whistle. As one
I
does.
support the current thing. No, but I want people to remember, you know, when we're talking about all of this, remember who our biggest enemies are. They are domestic. They want to, you know, steal this country indefinitely. That is the plan, right? Like, as soon as elections are compromised, it's and they get into power, that's really bad going forwards, especially if they don't think that they can win fair elections, which is going to become very hard post the 2030 redistricting. And if you look at voting patterns among younger individuals and current trend shifts, it's not good for them, especially, you know, birth rates. So, you know, I think that they're sort of like, we've got to do something at this point. So keep this in mind. And I think that, you know, when we're working with something like Cuba, we don't need the people in charge of Cuba to suffer. We just want a deal that puts them in our debt rather than China's debt. That's really the gist of it.
Yeah.
They can even be pretending to be socialists. We don't care, you know, whatever.
What would be really cool is if somehow a bunch of one, they would never be incentivized to do this though, but a bunch of based American Cubans just went back to the country, flooded it, and had a better administration elected. That would be really great. But I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen. But like, you know, people who had family history in the country who cared about it. But I just haven't met a Cuban who would want to go back. So that's too bad. But anyway,
I thought to myself, I guess we could build like a large military base in Cuba. And then I was like, oh yeah, Guantanamo. Like, we already have a large military base in Cuba.
It could be larger. That
could be larger, yeah.
Yeah.
It should always be bigger.
And Trump is all about real estate development too. I mean, you know, before we make the new Gaza, maybe we could make the new Cuba.
When we talk about the grift that they're running, and I'm like, you don't hate these people enough. One of the stats I heard recently that shocked me is in California, the average homeless person costs the state $175,000 a year. So keep in mind how big this grift is. It's not just Minnesota. They've been fighting throughout LA, hospice fraud. This fraud is all over the United States, and we need something but at a multi-state level. I think at this point is where we need to go next.
Yeah.
All right, love you, Simone.
Accountability. I love you too.
And be keeping an eye on the news. Let's see what happens with Cuba.
I will be watching with bated breath. Glad you highlighted this because, you know, it's not related to ICE and Minnesota, and therefore. No,
but that's why you guys need to subscribe. It's like we have fans and they go, oh gosh, Malcolm, everyone's talking about Iran's revolution right now. Like, why haven't you done a video on that? And it's like, because I didn't wait till the algo to pick it up to start talking about it, right? I did that video like 2 months ago, guys.
Yeah, everyone's talking about Epstein and ICE now. There's other things going on.
All right, love you.
Love you too.
And we will do the weekend episodes.
Yeah, look at that. It's just so much better. It's just so much better. I cannot stop replaying Epstein Pizza Party.
You like it?
And the problem is that Octavian, because he's working right next to me, he's like starting to just repeat the sorry, the chorus. And I'm like, hearing it come from a kid, I'm like, no, actually, not for you.
Epstein Pizza Party.
Like
I'll play it at the end of this video for our fans. They get to hear the first Epstein Pizza Party song. We're gonna play it when we do the video on AI and the right, but we'll have that video go live tomorrow.
Oh gosh. Okay, yeah. Hold on. He just like gets really mad about eating, and I don't know why. Because then he drinks.
I'll look at doing that drift thing you're talking about, but it just seems too complicated to be worth it. The effects will be practically unnoticeable. And I do not think the Skybrowse is actually doing what you think he's doing. I think he's doing it in the prompts. It would be very hard to do like structurally. You really need to structure every shot assuming that you're going to do that, which is really hard to do because the AI doesn't know how to give you extra stuff.
If I took time to try to make clips for you this evening, would you maybe consider using
it? Would take you way too much time. You've got to understand, you're doing this with like 100 clips.
How many clips are in there, really?
Yeah, probably. I think it's probably at least 25 or 30, maybe.
Yeah, like 25 or 30, but
because you're thinking that they're all individual, where many of them are made over multiple AI takes.
Yeah, but you can get Grok to make 10-second split like clips.
Right, but we don't have those. That's not what I made. Because I didn't expect that you would try to keep them all together, because you've got to basically ungroup them, and I don't even know how to do that.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Many of the clips that look like one clip are multiple clips, so we've got to find a way to...
But you can make a single 10-second Grok clip.
Right, so you would replace every animation in the song?
Potentially, if they're really good. Because we're only just learning how to do this. And what I'm realizing is that what Skybrowse is doing... I mean, not like we're ever going to get to that level, but...
No, I mean, I can see what he's doing that makes it so different from what we're doing. The core thing is he is much more diligent about always using Midjourney for the original image and always using a prompt image that gives a style idea so that he can stay with a more consistent
style. Yeah. Yeah. Plus, in his video prompts, I think it's more along the lines of like panning and like the camera, as it were, is moving, the non-existent camera.
Yes, he's describing how the camera is moving, which we haven't been doing. But he's...
I want to see what it's like to do that. I personally just want to get better at it and learn, so.
Well, we can do it with a different song.
I like this song. Maybe I can do it for Everest to Nowhere. That's the other song that just gets so stuck in my head. Climbing Everest
I can make another really catchy song. Just let me know and we'll do it, okay?
All the people crying, we don't care. And I just love that our kids know about Everest being that really tall mountain where rich people go to die. It's how it is.
Skybrow's recent Amelia video is really good, by the way.
Yeah, no, I mean, Skybrowse videos in general are super fun. I love them.
He made one that I don't even understand how he made it. I don't know. Did you see his NVIDIA one? So he made it about Team America and did everything in a Team America style, and even did the song in the style of the Team America song.
Well, that seems doable with a lot of finagling, but
yeah, it would require a lot of finagling.
Yeah, respect for Skybrowse.
Anyway. I don't like that song I don't like the way that video came out, but it was just really impressive that he did it.
Popping antibiotics, post hooker sweat, gates drafty mail, wife don't know yet, island full of models, consent age low, elite network scheming black. Wash your hands after if you know what we mean. Like an Epstein pizza party. We all get naughty. Grape soda, blizzard, pizza at 8:18. Like an Epstein pizza party. We all get naughty. Files dropping leaks. Prince Andrew's lore. Torture vid emails. Blacked out for sure. Gates forcing jabs. Microchips in the arm. Billions in the game. Sounding the alarm. Pizza party island. Secrets in the draft. Facts, conspiracies, elites having a laugh. Queuing on, tripping, connecting the dots. Gates and Epstein tying up. Blah 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 blah. Like an Epstein pizza party. We all get naughty. Grape soda, blizzard, pizza at 8:18. Like an Epstein pizza party. We all get naughty. Vax mandates dropping. Totally loved it. Ay, yo, file is unsealed. Pizza means more than cheese. Gates at the party. Spreading disease.